Hello.
Oh, I was on mute.
You and your
What?
mute button this morning.
Big mute, big muting. What? You can see that, John?
Yeah.
Cool.
You want to wait just a couple minutes, see if anybody else comes on?
Yep. You guys have any glass jokes? Any brewery jokes?
No, I was looking at this cover slide though, thinking about how much I enjoy drinking beer out of glass bottles. I do. I really prefer drinking beer out of glass bottles. They look very inviting right at this moment. I'm not a big fan of cans. I'm not even a glass. I just something about drinking beer out of the bottle in which it's packaged in just brings me a lot of joy.
I like it too.
It's hard to find too. More and more. Some of the beers I enjoy aren't packaged in glass anymore.
Very few. Yeah, I agree.
I think there's more a ritual to it that I enjoy. Opening a glass bottle and
Hearing the sound.
yeah, and just the feel of it in your hand, like it just feels a little more ritualistic than a can. A can feels more pedestrian, maybe. I will always choose a bottle. Even if it's not the beer that I want necessarily, if there's a beer in a bottle, that's my choice.
Me too. So we'll give people like 1 more minute and I'll tell a craft or just a beer joke.
You have one?
I do.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Okay. I fear my last words will be hold my beer and watch this. No. Okay. Never look at your beer as half empty. Look at it as halfway to your next one. All right. So
There we go.
all right. One last one. What did the beer sing on the beach? Don't worry, be happy.
Ah ha ha. That one was invented with the rise of hazy IPAs, I think. That joke. That joke didn't exist before the hop craze.
Get started.
Well, I think we'll get started here if you gentlemen are ready. Okay, great. I'm Megan with the New York State Brewers Association, and I'm thrilled today to offer this webinar by Generate Upcycle about recycling unsaleable product in glass. Every year, the New York State Brewers Association hosts an industry conference, and this past March, the theme of that conference was sustainability, which was really our first effort to talk about, to educate about, to introduce that topic as a theme in brewing operations here on a state level in New York. And that really kicked off a number of conversations and programs and resources now available to the 538 craft breweries in the state. And so I'm really happy to kind of continue that forward rather than the discussion of sustainability ending when the conference ended. So we're thrilled to have Generate Upcycle here. Just a little bit about the New York State Brewers Association. 9 years ago, when I joined, we had fewer than 150 breweries in the state. Today, as I mentioned, 538. That puts us squarely in the #2 position in the US after California, which has 1,100. So we're not going to catch them anytime soon. But when we passed Washington about 3 years ago, it was a big deal and something to be celebrated here. And I think a lot of the growth in New York has to do with the positive political environment. The legislation has by and large been very favorable to the growth of the craft beer industry in New York. But I also think a big piece of it are the businesses like Generate Upcycle who support the brewing industry here in New York. We have a very active and engaged community of what we call allied members that are here to support our breweries to grow faster, save time, and save money. And so I really appreciate all of you who are checking out this webinar either in person or will watch it on our YouTube channel, because it's important that we not only take advantage of the resources available, but that we support the businesses that are ultimately supporting our industry and helping us to grow and thrive at a pace that is definitely surpassing the national growth rate for this industry. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt Goodman and John Augarten from Generate Upcycle, both of whom I've had the opportunity to get to know over the past few months, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about recycling glass.
Thank you, Megan. So today we will be talking about recycling unsaleable product in glass. We'll do some intros and some bios and then kind of get into the problem and one of the solutions that we have. So overview of Generate, where John and I work. Generate is a firm focused on turning waste, what most people look at as waste streams, into valuable commodities. We do this through developing, owning, operating infrastructure assets. We have 3 different core segments that we focus on. Those are compost. We sell compost and fertilizer to municipalities, businesses, landscapers all over North America. Food waste, we take in food waste from large and small food manufacturers and processors, including breweries, all throughout the value chain. And wastewater, that is less relevant today, but we focus on sustainably processing septage and sewage and other forms of wastewater that are generated at a municipal level. Fun fact, we are the largest owner of organic waste or food waste recycling facilities in North America as of recently. We'll go through some quick introductions. John, you want to do an intro and then I can do the same?
Yeah, that sounds great. So I'm John Augarten, been with Generate for almost 1.5 years now. Really happy to be able to be co-hosting with the New York State Brewers Association as a native New Yorker, and actually had the pleasure of attending the conference just a few months ago, which was great to be able to learn more about the craft brewing industry here in New York. I went to school in Central New York to study animal science, and then quickly transitioned into food and beverage waste recycling soon after, and now have been in the space working with bottlers, brewers, and food and beverage companies up and down the supply chain ever since.
Cool. I'm Matt Goodman. I have been working at Generate for close to 4 years now. I've been working in the food industry and with brewers, including craft brewers in New York State, for the last 15 years, all throughout the supply chain, from helping set up bottling lines at New York State brewers, to figuring out solutions for their waste, to creating product out of some of their waste. One of the interesting examples is creating a glass sand fertilizer out of glass from recycled bottles. I am also a native New Yorker. I sit on the New York City Manhattan Solid Waste Advisory Board, where we help shape policy in New York around solid waste management. I think that is mostly it for my bio. So in addition, so here's some other things that Generate does. This is less relevant to the topic at hand today, but thought it would be worthwhile to mention. So in addition to the work we do around waste, we also have a power and a mobility segment. The types of projects that we do in those other sectors, in the power sector, we do a lot of energy efficiency. We do a lot of solar. We have over 2,000 commercial scale solar assets across North America. And microgrids. On the mobility side of the business, we do things like finance sustainable transportation. An example of that would be we finance hydrogen-powered buses for municipalities on the West Coast.
Hey, Matt, this slide didn't transfer to the second one. It didn't click through.
My apologies. So here you can see what I was talking about, the different sectors we operate in. John and I are in the waste to value sector. And I just mentioned the power and mobility sectors where Generate also operates. In terms of our scale and our impact, our operations have a meaningful environmental impact, which amounts to us diverting around 45,000 truckloads of waste from landfills every year, which is pretty enormous. We generate electricity from a lot of this waste, the equivalent of 10,000 homes worth of electricity. We also generate organic fertilizers that are used on farms, and all of this equates to a carbon reduction of around planting 150,000 acres of cropland of forests every year, which is pretty amazing. In focusing more now on New York State, because that is the theme of this webinar. In New York State, we have 3 anaerobic digesters. They are all commercial scale. They fertilize thousands of acres of farmland. We service generators of organic waste in around 150-mile radius of each of our digesters. So that extends into Ontario, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and all the states surrounding New York. Anaerobic digestion, if you're not familiar with it, it is a biological process where organic matter, food waste in this case, or beer, is turned into methane through archaea and bacteria. And basically the archaea and bacteria are in a tank and eat the organic waste, and they basically fart out methane, which is then used to create energy in the form of either electricity or renewable natural gas. So focusing in on glass, which is what we wanted to talk about today. Glass is a pretty amazing substance. It's 100% recyclable. It can be recycled endlessly without losing any quality or purity, which is really unique. Unlike plastic, where it degrades every time you recycle it. 80% of the glass that is recovered is made into new glass products, which is also pretty amazing. The rate for other materials is, below 50%. The problem is that very little is recovered to make into new glass products. And that's one of the issues that we're working on solving. This is an industry-wide issue. It's not only in the beverage industry. Whoops, went one slide too far. However, the beverage industry has gotten together, the beverage manufacturing industry with the glass bottling industry, with a few consultants, and put together some long-term goals of where we want the US recycling rate to be. And right now, about 31% of glass bottles in the US are made with recycled content. So that is glass that has been used, collected, cleaned, and brought back into the manufacturing process. We want to increase that to around 50%. So this is a 19% increase in recycled content by 2030. It is a very lofty goal. And one of the major problems is that there's low recycling rates in certain regions. In 2018, I think we saw that the recycling rate in certain regions was as low as 2% for glass. So getting up to this 31% recycled content rate is not an easy thing to do. Why we're focused on this, it has a big impact increasing the recycled content in glass bottles. For every ton of glass where we manufacture it utilizing recycled content rather than raw materials, it saves 1.2 tons of raw materials. So it's more than a 1-to-1 replacement. Recycling glass usually requires significantly less energy than producing bottles from virgin material. And every 10% of recycled glass used in the manufacturing process reduces energy consumption by about 3% and carbon emissions by 5%. So there is significant value in increasing the amount of glass recycled. John, over to you.
Yeah. So Matt mentioned that glass right now has a low recycling rate, and that low recycling rate is even more amplified when focusing on just full or partially full unsaleable product that is packaged in glass. And we see this, at various points in the supply chain, whether it's off the manufacturing line, where bottles are broken or hit the floor, or being manufactured off spec, or in warehouses and distribution centers or grocery stores where product has expired, was mislabeled, or recalled. And historically, there have been limited options for the disposal of product in glass, and all of those, kind of contribute to the low recyclability of any kind of unsaleable product that has been packaged in glass. So we're going to run through kind of a few of the common historical disposal options for these types of products. The first three involve, having the waste material shipped offsite, and then the fourth will touch on an option of handling the waste kind of more in-house at your facility. So the first that I'm sure most people are familiar with is kind of the traditional landfill and solidification of the actual product. This kind of entails waste is delivered to the landfill, whether it's put in your site's trash compactor or dumpster, or if you have pallets or even truckloads of waste, setting up a separate pickup to then be transported to a landfill. And since the product is liquid, it needs to first be solidified before being deposited into the landfill itself. Highlighting some pros and cons, obviously, kind of having the waste brought off site is always helpful. All that kind of the waste generator needs to handle is just collecting the waste. Some drawbacks, obviously, pretty common knowledge at this point that, sending material to the landfill really wastes the nutrients and value that is, still present in these waste products, and also creates emissions through that process. And then also, especially in the Northeast, it's a really pricey kind of option for your waste. And a recent study in the past year showed that in the Northeast, there's about 8 years left estimated of landfill capacity. So really expect kind of the costliness of landfill and solidification disposal to continue increasing. The second option is sending the product to an incineration facility, and similar kind of collection and then transportation methods. And then once there, the waste is used as a fuel through a burning process where some heat is captured and then used to produce steam, which generates a low level of electricity via a steam turbine. Really, incineration is viewed as one step above landfill in the waste hierarchy. It is also kind of an out of sight, out of mind solution until you actually get the invoice. Then it's a little more in sight and mind. One highlight is right now it's currently in compliance with a lot of corporate zero waste to landfill goals and certificates. say right now, as that could always change as more sustainable solutions do come on the market and are more accessible to waste generators really throughout the country. Some drawbacks to this are also a high cost of disposal, typically actually more costly than incineration. And then going along with that is high transportation costs. There are significantly fewer incinerators. So we see waste generators sometimes shipping material, up to 500 miles to an incinerator in order to comply with the zero waste to landfill policy. And then finally, the kind of nutrients and value left in the waste is still not being optimized. So, energy is inefficiently being produced, but the actual nutrients in the beverage and food waste aren't being captured and upcycled. And then more importantly and relevant is the glass isn't being crushed and then captured and sent to be turned into new bottles. The third option is a non-specialized or just general food and beverage waste depackaging facility. We see these a lot on compost and anaerobic digesters and even animal feed operations, and have one of these actually in New York ourselves, in Auburn, New York. And this is where they have equipment that is built to separate the organic material from the packaging for many different types of product packaging in all different shapes and sizes. And kind of really the one limitation is glass products. And that's because they are essentially wind tunnels with a bunch of baseball bats that accelerate really quickly to kind of rip open the packaging from the food and beverage waste. And when you put glass in there, it can shatter into really fine pieces and get mixed in with the organic material and not successfully get screened out. So overall, the solution is great because the organic waste is being captured and recycled, and usually at a lower cost than the first two options. But, I think it is really important for the waste generators and these disposal facilities to be mindful of that potential contamination of the glass, as it can be hard to capture. And, at our own facilities don't accept glass for this reason, especially since our products do end up being used back in the agricultural industry. And then finally, the glass would not enter the new bottle supply chain, which is an important note to highlight. And then the last solution is for waste generators to invest in a glass crusher on site to separate the beverages from the glass. This is kind of more specialized equipment that can be very successful for beverage waste and glass. It is just a very kind of mindful decision where some thought and cost analysis needs to be put before moving forward. Obviously, you'd be reducing kind of the waste hauling and disposal costs, but there is kind of the upfront CapEx of the actual investment, and then need to train and dedicate employees to operating the piece of equipment, and then be responsible for the maintenance. And then kind of an afterthought potentially is then you still have a liquid waste stream and the glass stream after the crusher. So you need to make sure that you have kind of recyclers for those two end uses, and determine if there are glass recyclers that will accept your call it as is, or if any kind of cleaning and sorting would have to be done first. And after, our kind of collective experience and seeing, both the pros and cons of all of those solutions, and talking and working with companies in the brewing industry and food and beverage industry as a whole, a need was definitely identified for an operation to be able to take in product that's packaged in glass and make sure that both the actual organic material is being upcycled and being turned into or being used for positive reuse, but also the glass was being responsibly taken care of and given a pathway to re-enter the new bottle supply chain. So we opened a state-of-the-art glass dedicated depackaging facility in Niagara Falls that it was custom tailored to be that solution that, is a lower cost option where all the byproducts are sustainably handled and making sure capturing the utmost value out of them. And kind of how it works is we receive product, and the first step is deboxing all of the product, where that cardboard is then kind of captured, baled, and recycled. And then from there, the glass package material is fed into the specialized glass equipment, where it is pulverized by the flexible impactors. And that's kind of just an interesting note to highlight, because unlike the general deep packaging technology, the equipment is, customized to prevent the glass from shattering into those really tiny particles and even sand and dust, which prevents it from getting mixed in with the beverage waste, and mitigating any chance of it yielding up as a contaminant. And then the third step is, screening, making sure that there's a rigorous screening process to sort out any labels, caps, corks from the organic material, and obviously the glass, to, get a very clean organic stream, and then also a very clean glass stream, and then ensuring that the glass is sorted by color and really furnace ready to, re-enter the supply chain and go to a bottle manufacturer. And then, Matt here has a video. This is some actually Cheese Whiz in jars that we've been able to process. And so this is right after the pulverizing step, pre-screening, but you can see even for such a thick material like the Cheese Whiz, we are getting an output of just that cheese with some paper lids, which, will be gone in 2 seconds after some screening. So it's really awesome, and, really handles beverages and clearly even some food products very well. And then after this, the cheese would be fed into the anaerobic digester to create renewable electricity, which is supplied directly onto the grid, powering kind of local infrastructure, and then the glass sent to a bottle manufacturer. And we wanted to focus on New York, primarily one, because we're familiar with the industry and kind of the extensive network of brewers and other, manufacturers and distributors handling product in glass. But we also saw, a large number of facilities that accept and recycle crushed glass, and a large network of glass bottle manufacturers, but no facilities to accept the actual full packaged products. So that's, was a huge driver for why we ultimately decided to, start this infrastructure wave in Niagara Falls in Western New York. And a really unique feature too is a lot of these glass manufacturers, so all the icons in blue, they will only really accept 1 or 2 colors of glass. So at our Niagara Falls facility, we need to sort all the glass cullet by color, and then are pretty much equidistant from every color of glass. So we're able to, process a load of clear glass, send it to the clear glass bottle manufacturer, and then the next day can take in blue glass or brown beer bottle glass and have that flexibility to service, the entire industry and all the various glass colorings. Yeah, this, facility and solution was really designed with the customer in mind. So there are 4 kind of main target areas that, we want to be sure to be able to offer any manufacturer or brewery or distributor. Those are savings, added customer loyalty, creating a brand advantage, and then preserving the industry. So with kind of rising costs of landfill and incineration, which aren't the most sustainable solutions. We wanted to be able to, one, create a sustainable solution, but also one that would yield savings and make it an easy pitch, and something so that waste disposal isn't a hot topic on your monthly budget reviews, and really let you focus on brewing and manufacturing. Second is customer loyalty. We've seen kind of rising consumer opinions drive decisions of even very large companies, and being able to show kind of consumers that you share similar values and have their opinions in mind creates kind of customer loyalty. And I know in especially craft brewing industry, where even having beers that are 100% sourced from local ingredients and being responsible and sustainability is something that can help really create that customer loyalty. Third is brand advantage, and that's really important as companies strive to be more sustainable. This is an opportunity to really create and close the circular economy loop, and be able to continue to use your cans, packaging, social media to continue telling the story and telling kind of your customers in the world, and setting an example of how brands and companies can be more environmentally sound and sustainable. And then finally, industry preservation, like I just mentioned, kind of closing the circular economy loop. It's a really fascinating and cool opportunity to be able to take product that is at the end of its life cycle in the consumer eyes and your eyes, and be able to take that to actually give nutrients back to the literal roots that a lot of the hops are grown on, and continue improving local agriculture while creating renewable energy, and then also creating new bottles for more beer to be packaged and sold to your consumers. So more specifically, working with the brewing industry, there are kind of a bunch of different ways to kind of get started and get involved, whether it's just with glass product or with other disposal needs of bulk materials or keg decanting or finished products in glass. Both Matt and myself are always happy to just have a chat and kind of talk through any issues that you may have, but we also like to do kind of on-site waste audits where we can walk through a facility, inspect pain points, and see and determine ways that kind of processes can be improved to, one, reduce waste, but then also ensure that waste is being kind of safely and responsibly handled. And then after that, you would receive a report with actionable information to kind of help your brewery, and from there can just discuss a few different ways and potential solutions to improve your current waste handling program. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. Can open it up to some Q&A if anyone has any questions.
You just want us to unmute and ask? I have questions. So I go. So many breweries are not packaging in 12-ounce bottles, but they're doing special releases in the bomber size. Does size of the bottle have any impact on the process or the price or any of that?
So yeah, we handle all sizes of product. At the very least, we are more than willing to trial anything if we are even a little skeptical that it wouldn't or would create issues. But overall, we've so far tested I believe up to growlers, and everything has been able to work fine, and the equipment can handle kind of all sizes and colors of glass.
So with regard to color, so if it's clear bottle glass that's being recycled, that's used to make more clear bottles. There's no mixing of colors, like you run the line separately, the process is separate.
Yeah, so right now run them separate in order to make sure that we are not opening the door to any color contamination in the glass streams.
Is it because of the color, or is there like some sort of contamination that would happen potentially?
It's because of the color. So the bottle manufacturers want to receive all like colors. So there will be some plants, some bottle manufacturers that only handle brown glass. So they don't want to be receiving clear glass or have a mixture of the two glasses, and want to keep kind of pure colors so that they can put in the furnace and melt it and have that uniform color of glass to then rework.
I see. And then with regard to the comment of the larger size bottles that are often special releases and not necessarily high volume, is there some sort of minimum requirements? I'll say for me, like if I have a little piece of paper, I don't all the time walk over to my recycling bin. I'll throw it in the trash can that's right next to me. Like, is there, like, everything should be recycled, we get that, but is there a minimum standard or a minimum that makes sense financially? Or
so from our perspective, we can take in any quantity. If someone had a case of product, they're more than welcome to drop it off and can recycle it. The economic question, I think depends on their distance, and also their kind of economic threshold for what they're willing to do for the sustainable solution. If they're 400 miles away, putting a case in a car to ship it to us, is a question that they need to ask. But we're always more than happy to receive and recycle as little or as much as a company has.
I think the economics really become favorable for our potential customers when they generate, let's say, around 1 truckload of waste to send to our facility every couple of months at a minimum. So that's around 20 tons every few months, is where we're able to kind of get more competitive with pricing and often beat other solutions.
And they have to get it to your facility.
So we work in any way that's convenient for our customers. We have transportation. We can provide transportation of waste to our facilities. We can also work with our customers' transportation provider, whether that's third party or internal. But we're very flexible in that.
Okay, I have one more question. My question has to do with turning the product into fertilizer. There are a lot of breweries, particularly where I am in Saratoga Springs, Indian Ladder Farms and Dancing Grain are two that come to the top of my head, that grow on property where they're brewing their beer and packaging. And I'm just curious of, is it possible that the fertilizer gets brought back to the farm from which it was initially produced, or is it all just kind of mixed together? And like, is there any way to literally have like a closed loop within one location?
John, you want to answer this or should I?
Go for it.
Okay, it's an easy one. Just kidding, it's a complicated one. So our digesters are commercial scale. They take in, at a minimum, our Niagara digester can handle at least over 30,000 tons of waste per year, way more than any one brewery is generating. So all of that gets mixed into our digestion tanks. And the fertilizer is a mix of waste from a bunch of different companies. So we certainly can provide fertilizer from that digester, but it's going to be mixed with a lot of other customers' waste.
Mhm. Got it. That's what I figured.
And on one last note that I did not mention during our talk, but did some calculations while we were chatting. And last year we recycled around 10 million bottles or cans or beer units at our US and Canadian facilities.
Wow. 10 million beer units, you said US and Canada last year. And presumably you will exceed that in 2023.
I think so.
Based on the number of new facilities.
If we do our job well.
Well, or if the prospects are thinking about this, right, and getting the packaged product in glass or cans to you.
Yep.
Yeah, we know the younger generations, you know, John touched on this, the younger generations coming up tend to be more socially conscious. You know, they're going to buy beer that they want to drink. But I think if it's equal, they're going to buy the beer they want to drink that's also sustainably processed or packaged, or you know, there's that social or environmental responsibility piece with it. And you know, hopefully it's becoming more and more important for the consumers as well. I don't have any other questions. Anyone else?
Don't think so.
Well, we really appreciate Generate Upcycle, Matt, John, taking the time to talk with us today. You know, we've talked before, people who own and operate breweries are super, super busy, stretched very thin. The vast majority of which do not have a background in sustainability. And so this is super helpful information for breweries on any level. And maybe it's not even today, or maybe it's as they grow, because what we're seeing here in New York now, the trend is multiple locations, more D2C, less working through distributors, and growing by way of number of locations, which is not counted in the number of licensed breweries here in the state. So we are still seeing a lot of really great growth, and it's my personal hope that as the industry continues to grow in terms of volume and revenue, the industry will also continue to evolve with regard to processes and operations to have a smaller footprint, right? This industry has historically been very socially responsible. You know, the impact on local communities, the economic impact, providing jobs, being a hub for community groups to come and gather, has all been, I think, really largely part of the history of craft beer. But the environmental piece maybe has lagged the social piece a little bit. So thanks for offering a solution, which hopefully more and more breweries will take advantage of. Appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.